Ghost Cult Magazine. So stoked to welcome in Paul from Black Orchid Empire. How are you today?
What is up? I'm good. I'm very good. I'm in like my kid's playroom for where I've been for about 12 weeks, and I'm just settled in now. I've got guitars in here. It was a great excuse, so I'm cool.
I see keyboard and a gaming chair and a wedge. So,
Dude, this is the YouTube channel waiting to happen. Is my kid's playroom where I just play guitar badly and talk shit. Yeah, anyway.
nice. Do you have like a little rubber floor mat for them so they don't get hurt when they fall over invariably?
No, because they're old enough so that it's not an issue anymore. It's like a learning experience now instead of like actual injury, so it's fine.
Good stuff. Reminds me of my childhood when we got beat up a lot, and my dad was like, "Walk it off, kid." Anyway, super excited. This is not a therapy session for me. This is super exciting to chat with you. Big fan of the band. New album Semaphore is out this week on Long Branch Records, which we're also big fans of. And it's really cool to talk to you. This record is terrific. I've been jamming it out. I wanted to kind of start talking about the concept of the record because I think it's really first of all, it's a really deep and good record, but I wanted to just kind of like start there because I think there's a lot of interesting lyrical and conceptual things to unpack.
There are, and it's kind of a deliberate ploy, really. So as a lyric writer, it's really hard. You hit a bit of a roadblock sometimes when you think, okay, I've got to talk about something meaningful that's important to me, that means something to everybody else, and it's got to be experiential as well. And you're like, how can you just talk about your own life experience for like 10 albums, unless it's not possible. And it kind of struck me that all the stuff I enjoy, the vast majority of stuff I enjoy is fiction. It's stories, right? And so we came up with the idea that if we make it a science fiction orientated kind of concept record, it gives you so much freedom to talk about massive issues that really affect everybody, but through a lens that is completely out of context. So I don't have to, I don't really understand the obsession with everybody demanding that everybody lives the thing they write about anyway, because Tolkien didn't have to go to Mordor and then write about it as like a diary. He was able to just make that up, and that's still valid. So obviously we're talking about stuff we can really relate to, and it's very personal to us, but it's through a kind of allegorical science fiction format. And we're all massive sci-fi geeks and fans, and so all of my favorite authors like Ian Banks and Richard Morgan, who wrote the Takeshi Kovacs stuff that's been turned into the All Carbon series, and like Isaac Asimov and Arthur C. Clarke, and like basically all the great writers of sci-fi, and all my favorite films like Alien and 2001: Space Odyssey. And it was just a chance to feed from that amazing wealth of inspiration. And every song on the album has a completely different narrative to it. So it's always got a self-contained idea that's just basically the only connection between all of the songs is that they're all science fiction. Apart from Dust and Crash, which are kind of related, there's like a sequel thing happening there. And I've actually written like a short story for each song as well, which we're going to be drip feeding out after the album's out. So you get the lyrical version, which is like the poetry and the kind of ability to talk from as if I'm in that experience, and it's always first person. And then you have the narrative, which is way more kind of detailed, and you can allow loads more information, loads more imagery, but it's directly telling you what the song is about because it's a story about the same thing. So from like Faces, which is about everybody suddenly realizing they're an android for the first time, or something like Natural Selection, which is about somebody who's sent to interfere and kind of do like regime change on Earth, and then become so obsessed with the planet and how much beauty there is as well as how much pain there is that they decide to stay there and go down with the ship. It's just these little nuggets of ideas, and it meant that over like a series of Thursday nights when we'd finish our session, we run a commercial studio, and we would finish the band session and then stay late and write ideas and riffs, and some stuff came together super quick because we could all throw in ideas, and suddenly it wasn't just down to me to come up with the themes of the song. Dave and Billy could pitch in and be like, hey, this is a really cool idea I had, and it was so fun. It was just super fun. So that was why we did it.
Amazing. I feel selfishly like you wrote this record just for me, and that you're my new best friend.
I really hope that's true of a lot of people.
We're gonna be mates now. That's just it. We're just mates now.
Hmm.
And yeah, I mean, this is in my wheelhouse. Personally, I got a real vibe in a more modern sense, not just the stories, but I got like, and I don't want to. It's not. I don't want to confuse it and say it's apples to apples musically, but recent albums from like Muse or
Yeah.
even Nine Inch Nails Year Zero,
Hmm.
like really will ring in with this album. Like if you could get down with that, you could get down with this. And you know,
Yeah. That's
and
fair,
even
man.
I happen to be rocking a Dark Tranquility shirt, and they also have, you know, similar linear stuff. Voivod, even, like, you know, you can it's wonderful storytelling, even just on an individual basis, song for song.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much. I mean, they're all the same influences, and like Catatonia and things like Mastodon, where they have these incredible. You got a Mastodon poster, so you know what's up.
I do.
Just like it, music shouldn't just be about like having a good time and then replicating that for other people to invest in. I think that's valuable, and you should be doing that at the same time. But for me, it's a chance to tell a story that highlights something that other people can relate to, and the whole imagery around the record, the front cover and everything, is about the idea that music is the closest thing we know to being telepathic. We can chuck an idea out into space. Somebody in a different country, in a different time, and a different age in their life and different experience can listen to it and have the same exact reaction that we had. And that's amazing. That's so cool. It's the same thing that any artist who writes a book or puts a painting on the wall or any of those things, that's what they're basically trying to do. They're communicating an idea with somebody without them really even knowing that's what's happening. So it's the idea. Semaphore is like a messaging system. It's the idea of sending out signals, sending out messages. But in terms of bands that you're referencing, those are like absolutely, and then things like Deftones are a huge thing for me, and Tesseract and Periphery, the more sort of techie side. And there's a British band, Black Peaks, who are huge as an influence for me. I love those guys. And Carnival, the Australian band, who are like super sick, and obviously like Tool. It's just all we do is we make shit that sounds like our favorite stuff, right? That's what anyone does, and that's kind of what happens. So it was just for us, this record represents the time where I think the best we've ever done at capturing all of those things and putting them down the way we really meant it.
Nice. And that's what you got to do in this. You have one shot at these things. I'm glad you mentioned the album cover and the title, because yeah, the messaging, Semaphore, time travel, music, all these things. And I have to say, I love the color palette and the design of the album, because it's so refreshing to see an album that is not black or a photo that's been like disused and treated and stuff. And I love all that stuff. I love all that.
We've done that
stuff.
as well, man. We've done that as well.
Yeah, but it's so colorful, and just like we need like a burst of something in the brain right now to just wake us up out of this year.
Exactly. And so although we didn't know that when we didn't know we were going to need that. I don't know if you've seen all the single artwork as well. It's all on Spotify at the moment, because it's going to kind of grow into a thing. There's another, obviously the lead single, Singularity, drops on Friday with the album, and that has a visualizer as well. So check that out. But the color palette. So I drew all of the artwork, and Dave did all the like layout stuff. So we were like crazy DIY, which basically every band has to be, I think, these days. But this is the first time that I was like, I'm going to dig out my ancient artistic skills and try and figure something out. So I just got like a digital tablet and drew like all the kind of main artwork that you see, and then we just laid it out. But yeah, you're right. We were like, our whole rule of thumb is to say, what's the absolute archetypal thing, which is why we called the first record that a rock band does. Let's try and do the opposite of that, whatever it is, and then make it our own that way. And not in like a pointless way, not in like, oh, we're going to be pink because something else is blue. Just like, it's just an interesting attack to go, I'm going to try and make this not fit all the normal conventions and the normal stereotypes and the kind of spidery death metal logos, which I really like. And I really want, like, I'm fine. I'd love to walk around in napalm death tops and stuff. It's great. But it's for me, that's been done so well by so many people. We're never going to get like the darkest imagery ever. It's been done already. There's already Fit for an Autopsy. There's already all those bands like killing it or Thy Art is Murder or something. Like, it's insane. So leave that to them and we'll just be our own thing. Because, for example, the way we blend like heavier riffs and technical stuff and complex ideas, but with the most poppy melodies imaginable. Because I'm a pop writer, so our day job is producing pop and hip hop and R&B and indie rock and all sorts of other stuff. So, why wouldn't I attack a rock song in the same way? I'm trying to write a pop melody basically all the time. But a lot of people it doesn't gel for them. They're like, it would be better if he was screaming. And I'm like, I get that, but I can't. That's not what I do. So how can I change that? And what I can do is I can write pop melodies. So that's what I'm going to do.
Nice. So many things to unpack there. I definitely I want to capture this idea is right. I love that you are so hands-on, not just DIY, because that's important to me, but I love how hands-on you are on the creative process all the way through. So I love that you design the artwork yourself, and for a younger band to be really hands-on is unusual.
We ain't that fucking young. We're not that young.
Oh, you got a baby face, my man. I mean, relatively several albums, not like you haven't been at this for like 25 years. Newer, not new. Yeah. Certainly not. Younger. I think I said younger, but
than like you, some people. Yeah.
Younger. Yeah, I'm old-ish, so I understand. But I do appreciate that you guys are so invested in your own process. It's really great to see.
It would confuse me for anyone not to be at this point. You know what I mean? Like, it's so basically nobody in the entire universe is going to come along and do all this shit for you ever. That's not going to happen. It may have happened like one time in the 70s where someone was playing in a pub and someone was like, you're great, we're going to sign you and put $1 million behind you. But honestly, that's like a dream that never really happened. And what does happen is bands make it, and then a label gets involved and says, let's make you make it better. And that's what Long Branch have done with us. They signed us in 2018, and they are amazing guys, as you know. It was Manuel and Flo. It's now Manuel because Flo's moved on. They just had complete confidence that they signed us from the demos of our album Yugen, and then we're like, cool, just let us know when it's finished. so we did it, and with same thing with this record. They have not had a single ounce of creative input of any kind. They've just said, okay, I like that profile photo, and yeah, artwork looks great, whatever. They just like it. They're just fans of what we're doing, and they want to promote it to other people, and it's so pure and so beautiful, and I've never seen anything like it. It's amazing.
That's fantastic, and again, much needed in these times. I know there's always a debate between labels and creative input and things like that. So it's great that they trust you to do your own thing.
They just trusted us to be the band they signed. That was all it was. Why would you? Right. It's like going out with someone. It's like having a date with a girl and then being like, you would be really cool if you just changed everything about yourself. I would like you. It's insane. Why would anyone do that? And I think people get confused because they see the way like the mainstream pop industry works, and it's like they find somebody and they put them through a machine. That's never been the way that the rock and metal world has worked. It's always been stuff that's gonna happen anyway because they're so electrifying. Like Rage Against the Machine didn't need a label to be popular. They were going to turn up at a place, people were going to be like, what is this? And love it, right? And then the label just helped them fuel that fire and make it bigger, and that's how it works. It's changing all the time. It's different now to how it was when I was younger. But essentially, it should be like that. And I think if it's not like that, it means that somebody doesn't know how to sell your band. They only know how to sell a different band, and they're trying to turn you into that to be able to sell you. And that just means it's the wrong label. I tell people this all the time, like, what's the point in having a label if it's the wrong one? There isn't one.
So true. And I love that analogy about Rage Against the Machine. They probably would have been big no matter what. And I like people that were mad at them for coming back and like headline. They were going to headline Coachella.
Apparently they're like political. I hear.
Somebody tried to attack Tom Morello on Twitter. I'm really disappointed in you putting politics in your music, huh?
Why would that happen? It's
System of a Down. It's like, haven't you been paying attention at all?
But it means they haven't. They right. Just like listen to it and it washes over them and they like it. They really engage with it, but they just didn't ever connect with what the guy was saying. And I'm like, how do you listen to music and not actually hear the words? But then it's the kind of person they were, obviously, which is even more scary. Anyway.
Yeah, it's kind of like saying, I can't believe Cradle of Filth put out that Jesus is a cunt shirt. They seem like teeth rollers and scone eaters and very nice Christian boys and girls. And
it's remarkable.
Unreal. There'll also probably never be a better shirt than that shirt. But anyway, um, speaking of, you have a new video coming out. I love the video for Evergreen. First of all, it's a great track, and probably one of the standout tracks of the whole record. But I love the video. It was very creative. I wanted to talk about the approach to that video, because again, just I love anything unique, or any attempt to, just like you said, just to take the formula and throw it out. I love it.
Yeah, so the first part that we threw out of the window was the idea that we're in a very strange time where everybody knows that you have to have a video, but everybody also thinks they cost £5 and they aren't. Everyone can have the same video and it doesn't matter. Like, okay, so it's going to be you in a warehouse again. That's fine. We've done those videos before. We always try to do them with a twist. Like, ever since our first record, we've done pretty stupid videos. We were our own record label for the first one, so we could spend money on it and no one would question it. And they probably should have questioned it because it was stupid, but it was great. On this one, we were like, you know what, videos are super important. And they also need to be good, because what the hell is the point of having a video that is going to be like the main way people find you in a lot of cases? Going to be a huge tool for fan engagement and all that, industry speak, but it's just boring. And I've seen it before. Like, why? We'd rather not be in it and have it really cool than like, it'd be the same thing. Yeah. But luckily, we have a friend, Alina Godnyenko, who is, we'd worked with her on some other stuff outside of the band, and she's from the Ukraine, a place called Odessa, and she just came up with all these ideas based on, in fact, in some cases, just from the lyrics of the song. I hadn't even shown her the narrative stories I'd written, and had this whole plan, and I kid you not, went to the Ukraine with her whole team of people. She makes videos for all sorts of people, like Steph from Placebo works with her. She manages his electronic project. And she just did it in 3 days. Everything you see in all of our videos that are live action, as in not a visualizer, so all 3 of the videos, she shot all of that stuff in 3 days with an incredible team using like state-of-the-art movie equipment. And, the alien in Natural Selection is like 8 hours of makeup and a prosthetics expert. And she found all these people and did all this stuff and just sent them back to us. And we were like, what? How did you do this? She gave us this big, long brief about what she was going to do. And it was just her vision. And it was so amazing. And we shot our bits in the UK in our studio. And she had the idea of like projecting imagery onto ourselves that would tie in with the stuff she was going to use later. So it's insane. And the result was like this like mini sci-fi movie that doesn't have any right to be a music video because it's too good. And it was ours. And we were like, we couldn't believe it. It was amazing.
I love when that happens. I love that you mentioned earlier about, and I definitely want you to share any link that I can help promote you guys about your producing projects. But I love that you mentioned about vocals and singing. There's plenty of records with screaming on it, but a lot of what I notice in most music is the lack of, range, to be polite.
Yeah.
I think a lot of singers don't use a wide array of notes. They're very conservative about choices. You're not. And I wanted to ask you about your vocal influences and approaches, because, backtracking a little bit to the previous work and now this record, I definitely see, progression, and, I like these bold attempts at, really great singing, and there isn't a lot of it. It's just a lot of people. It's like root, fifth octave, root octave.
Exactly.
Not too much variety. And you mentioned some really great influences with great singers, but I wanted to get your personal take on, who's influenced you and where that comes from.
I started singing when I was like 24, because I was a guitarist for a long time, since I was like 10. And I was starting a band at the time with Billy, which became Cape Fear, which then disbanded and became Black Orchid Empire after a while. And he was like, who are we going to get to sing in the band? I was like, I'll do it. And he's like, you don't sing. And I was like, but I'll get lessons though. So I just went and did that. And it's what it's about, right? There's 2 things here going on. One is just generally in all music or pop music, whatever, it's going towards the simplest and most effective way of getting a message across, the lowest common denominator for getting that message across. So if a song can be one note, it will be. That's kind of the general rule of thumb, right, in pop. And if you compare Bohemian Rhapsody or something that was a huge hit then to like a Taylor Swift song now. It's what I would call a linear melody instead of something that has a lot of ups and downs and troughs and valleys and like a dynamic kind of range. So that's happening in all music anyway. And then in the heavy music scene, we have a problem in heavy music where we feel like if something's not the exact thing I like, I hate it, right? And it becomes this thing where every band goes, I know what I like. What I like is this very specific niche of like deathcore, and I must emulate my heroes in this niche, and I must wear these clothes, and I must do all this other. It's for a very liberal, very empowering medium. It's incredibly conservative sometimes, and that's another thing that's happening in heavy music. And it's not because people are deliberately doing that. It's because they're subconsciously just absorbing all of their influences, and their influences become very tunnel vision. The way to avoid that is to be involved in loads of other genres as well. And all three of us are producers, and we all produce stuff in totally different genres all the time. So on the same day that I would be working on something from our band, I might have been working on a complete pop song or an EDM track or like death metal. I don't know. It could have been anything. And it means that your mind gets open to different influences and to things that take in more dynamics and more interesting melodic ideas. And I feel like there's a lot of people who listen to heavy music and they don't listen to anything outside of that. And if you talk to anyone from like URM or one of the kind of the respectable like mixing and producing kind of podcasts, or those kind of anyone's giving advice on that, they'll tell you the most powerful thing you can do as a producer is to know a lot about a lot of genres, because it teaches you things from all over the place. So really it's kind of it's an accident. My dad is a jazz sax player. Dave grew up doing like weird bluegrass shit in New Zealand. Like Billy is from Texas. Like we've all got crazy different influences from all over the place. And I think that shows, because by the way, I'm not the only one writing my vocal melodies. All three of us are punching each other in the face to do different melodies. You know, like we're trying to serve the song in the same way that we would if we were producing a different artist. And I think that's the power we have. It's an incredibly stupid way to run a band. Nobody should try it. But if all three of you in a 3-piece band are producers and you're all on the same page, it works apparently in this one case. I think if it was like a 4-piece or a 5-piece, it might be disastrous. A lot of bands have like one producer in them, but we have 3, and for some reason it works. So who knows? But yeah, that's kind of what I can attribute that to. But your comments are very kind, and it's something that I'm very, very conscious of.
Nice. Just to kick it back to what you mentioned earlier, I think it is very similar to Mastodon, right? Because they made Crack the Sky, which to me is, you know, a modern Dark Side of the Moon, or, you know, The Wall.
Really.
And they really almost wrote a record they couldn't perform vocally. It was so well done vocally with so many incredible choices melodically. And, you know, like you talked about Queen, Freddie Mercury, and all those guys could really sing incredibly, maybe not Deaky, but everybody else. And sorry, John Deacon, but Roger and Brian could sing incredibly well too. So I think that, you know, that daringness, right, that risk taking, like let's make something almost too hard to perform. Yeah. And then they didn't realize how awesome it was going to be, and that people wanted them to do it live. And I saw them perform. This is going to sidebar a little. I saw them perform Crack the Sky like 4 or 5 times live, because I was obsessed. I still am obsessed with that record. And, you know, it was hard for them to pull it off with just the 4. And Bill doesn't really sing, so it's really just the 3 of them. So I totally appreciate that approach. And so do you now find like, oh man, they wrote a really hard part I have to do now?
We hate ourselves because like everything, the bass playing is stupid. It's just stupid. The drumming is stupid, and the guitar playing is stupid, and then I have to sing those parts as well. So we always like come away from rehearsals going, why do we do this to ourselves? Like, what was the point of this? And it's because we were just serving the song and not thinking about how we would do it later. But we you know, you learn how to do it. For us as well, not to take anything away from the live medium, but it's a different thing. So the recording, the album is like cinema. You can cut takes, you can make it change color afterwards, you can do different stuff. live music is like theatre. It's a performance, right? And you can rearrange what you do a little bit. Like you say with Mastodon, they weren't ever going to be able to do it the same, but they can at least do the song in a way that works and is cool, and you really get the essence of the same thing. So I'm not too worried about that. I mean, obviously it means you have to be in shape vocally to do it. You have to have the equipment to do it and all those other things. And to be honest with you, we can't really whinge because Tesseract exist and Periphery exist and Arcspire exist. Like, I can't, no, it's fine. I'm fine.
Well done, well done. As we wind this down, I definitely wanted to ask you. It's and obviously, I sincerely hope that you, your friends, the band, all of your peers, everyone is well. We live in a ridiculously shit time in the world with a
2020,
pandemic.
Man. 20.
Just like what is aliens, meteors, murderous unicorns. I don't know what's coming next, but it's a really tough time in the world. Obviously, a lot of personal and political unrest on top of everything else.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope you guys are all well and whole.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously a strange time to put a record out. And I know you didn't have really any touring on the books until later in the year. But any thoughts on how to bring this to the people a little better, considering we're just coming out of quarantine now, sort of?
Well, yeah. So depending whether people get the chance, whether they miss out, we are doing a listening party for the album on Zoom on Thursday night, 8 p.m. GMT. So that will be really cool because it means people can check it out. The three of us are going to be on like a webinar, so we'll be able to talk to people while they listen to it, and they can ask us questions and stuff. So that's cool. It's not a fucking gig, is it? But it's cool. We're just going to, our whole thing is like, you know what? This is unique. Everyone's in the same position. It's not just one country or one localized area or one band. It's everybody. And the way this unfolds and becomes normal for people again is going to be different for everybody, but it's going to be universal. So our whole thing is, let's just attack as soon as we can, as hard as we can. So in like October time, we're really hoping to get those tours that are already booked to happen. We have EU stuff booked in February. And furthermore, we've just started working with a really good US agent, TKO. So we're going to hit the US definitely next year. And I think 2021 might be a pretty good year for live music. Put it like that. So we're just going to have to hit it as hard as we can for that. I mean, to say a word on what you're mentioning, it's a crazy period. And I think the main thing people would do well to think about is just the things you love are the things you love for a really good reason. And as long as you have those, most of the time, everything else is a distraction from that. So try and hold on to those things and treat those with enough respect, and remember that they're important to you, and everything else will eventually change. There's never a situation which will never change.
I mean, so well said. Yeah, that's a great way to end it. Yeah, man, thank you for being so thoughtful. And, it's not easy to talk about your art when you make art, but I appreciate you going on a flight of fancy with me a little bit and delving into this album. I love this record, Semaphore. I wish you the best with it. And hopefully we'll get through this terrible time, and I'll get to see you in America, or maybe over on your side of the pond, and we'll have some beers and nerd out on music and other stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do it.
Paul, thanks so much, man.
Thanks for having me, man.